Hello. I guess we're live. All right. Well, hello, friends. Welcome to our Daily Quaker midweek meeting for worship. Um, it's a it's going to be a silent worship, but I'm going to give a little message first. So let me tell you how it works. I'll start with a short message and then we can all greet each other, if anybody's here. Nobody's here right now. um, but I'm talking right now because this is going to be a video later and I just don't want there to be like an awkward type of silence because we are here for a different kind of silence. Anyways, so what I'll do is I'll start with a short message and then we can greet each other and share any joys or concerns we'd like to celebrate or maybe pray about, while we're in silent worship. Then I'll invite you into silent worship where we'll sit in silence for the rest of the hour. So if you can't stay for the whole hour, that's fine. But I feel free, to set an amount of time that you want to sit in silence. It could be 5, 10 minutes, it could be whatever. Um, and you can also, do other things like read or crochet or draw or journal. That's all fine too. So while you're in silence, you can center yourself, you can pray, meditate, put your day in order for a little bit. But I would also recommend that you try and listen to that still small voice within. Um, it could be um, it could be the Holy Ghost, it could be Sophia or Jesus, the light, God, Goddess, universe, Mary, whatever it is that whatever name you give to that, to give that inner source of light, that something that is greater than you, but is also within you. So if you feel called to share your message during the meeting, just put it in the chats. In a real meeting, it's important to take some time to figure out if your message comes from a divine place or if it's your ego, to do some discernment. Um, But we can be a little bit more relaxed today because we are using the chat, not the voice, which is less distracting and it's something that we will get to later. And I really also want to focus on not being fear driven with because our message today is about fear. So I don't want to be fear driven, which includes social anxiety. I want us to be very open and expressive and just love driven. I think that should be the focus. Um, so we can engage with our vocal ministry after the silence. So I'm going to begin by reading a prayer by a Quaker poet. His name is John Greenleaf Whittier. And this prayer is called Dear Lord and Father of Mankind. It's very short. Um, and then after the poem, we can kind of center down. And what that means is just kind of basically ground ourselves and make ourselves just receptive to to the spirit and just just kind of like ground ourselves, not root ourselves into the floor. Okay, so here's the poem, and it would be our um, okay. So drop thy still dews of quietness till our strivings cease. Take from our souls the strain and stress, and let our ordered lives confess the beauty of thy peace. So we're just going to take a few moments to center ourselves. Okay. I needed that because I was running late today and I just okay. So I just needed to kind of chill out. So today I wanted to talk about fear. Um, I believe that if we want our society to move towards peace, we need to confront our fears. Not just confront our fears, but we need to learn how to handle them. It's like the check engine light that we need to address. So the thing with fear is it's like a hidden chain that can really hold us back. It can make us cautious, afraid. It can make us, I'm sorry, it can make us both cautious or afraid, but I don't know what I wrote. I'm reading from a script. Okay, let's get off the script. So, fear, fear is like an invisible chain that can really hold us back. And it's different than caution, and it's different than like the awe that we feel, when faced with God. Um, Fear is different because it chases us into corners. And like if when we're cautious, we proceed cautiously. We're still going forward, but but fear chases us into corners, and it makes us react instead of act. It takes us off our path. So we might, have this grand plan that we want to do something that seems very, very important to us. And we head towards that plan, but all of a sudden we are faced with fears. People are telling you, you can't do that because you don't have enough money, or you're not beautiful enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not focused enough, like whatever it is, that fear greets you and it turns you around and takes you off the path. And so when we are driven by fear, our choices become defenses, and we pretty much lose control of ourselves. We lose our way. Um, so in quiet, so I believe that taking some time to quiet those voices of fear, to center ourselves, helps us break free from the fear. Um, instead of just constantly listening to the noise of the world, it's coming at us from everywhere, and we get on social media. Um, we have, we are sailing along a very fear-driven algorithm, and it just infiltrates our lives with fear instead of love. So, um, what happened today? I actually wrote out a script, but then I asked ChatGTP to proofread it, and it totally rewrote it in a way that doesn't make sense. So I had to go off script. So anyway, so being just centering ourselves in silence really helps us tune in to that still small voice within and tap in to our truth. And we need to do that. We need to do that as much as we can in order to keep ourselves aligned with our path. So there's a poem. It's a little long, but I love it so much, and I think it speaks to this condition. It's called The Unicorn in Captivity. It's by Anne Morrow, and this is the cover. Isn't that beautiful? I I am in love with Unicorn in Captivity. The imagery, the tapestries, everything. It's just kind of a guiding prince. It's like I don't know. It's just something that really speaks to me. So this is this was a set of tapestries, and it's from like the Middle Ages. And here's a poem by Anne Morrow Lindbergh about it. And it's called Unicorn in Captivity. So let me read it. And then after I read it, we can go into open worship where we just sit in silence for however long you can handle. I'm going to be doing it until the first hour. So here sits the unicorn in captivity, his bright invulnerability captive at last. The chase long past, winded and spent by the king's spears rent, collared and tied to a pomegranate tree, here sits the unicorn in captivity, yet free. Here sits the unicorn, his overtakelessness bound by a circle small as a maid's embrace, ringed by a round corral, pinioned in place by a fence of scarlet rail, fragile as a king's crown, delicately laid down. You could see, like, the unicorn can easily escape his corral. I mean, everything is just, it's just small and delicate, gilded and alluring, but it's a trap. Over horn, hoofs, and tail, as a butterfly net is lightly set, he could leap the corral if he rose to his whole white height. He could splinter the fence light with 3 blows of his porcelain hoofs in flight, if he chose. He could shatter his prison wall, could escape them all, if he rose, if he chose. Here sits the unicorn, the wounds in his side still bleed from the huntsman's spears, yet he takes no heed of the blood-red tears on his milk-white hide that spring unsealed like flowers that rise from the velvet field in which he lies. Dream wounds, dream ties do not bind him there in a kingdom where he is unaware of his wounds, of his snare. Here sits the unicorn, head in a collar cased like a girdle laced round a maiden's waist, broidered and buckled wide, carelessly tied. He could slip his head from the jeweled noose, so lightly tied, if he tried, as a maid could loose the belt from her side. He could slip the bond, so lightly tied, if he tried. Here sits the unicorn, leashed by a chain of gold to the pomegranate tree, so light a chain to hold, so fierce a beast, delicate as a cross at rest on a maiden's breast. He could snap the golden chain with one toss of his mane. If he chose to move, if he chose to prove his liberty, but he does not choose. What choice would lose? He stays the unicorn in captivity. In captivity, flank, hoofs, and mane. Yet look again. His horn is free, rising above chain, fence, and tree. Free hymn of love, his horn bursts from his tranquil brow, like a comet born, cleaves like a galley's prow, into season torn, springs like a lily white from the earth below, spirals a bird in flight to a longed for height, or a fountain bright, spurting to light of early morn. O luminous horn. Here sits the unicorn in captivity, in repose, forgotten now, the blows. When the huntsmen rose with their spears, dread sounds of the baying hounds, with the cries for blood and the answering flood in his veins for strife, of his rage for life, in hoofs that plunged, in horn that lunged, forgotten the strife. Now the need to kill has died like fire, and the need to love has replaced desire. Forgotten now, the pain of the wounds, the fence, the chain, where he sits so still, where he waits thy will. Quiet, the unicorn, in contemplation stilled, with acceptance filled. Quiet, save for his horn, alive in his horn, horizontally, in captivity, perpendicularly, free, as prisoners might, looking on high at night, from day close discipline of walls and bars to night free infinity of sky and stars. Find here felicity, so he is free. The unicorn, what is liberty? Here lives the unicorn in captivity, free. Okay, so I invite you to open worship. Being love driven is one of the most subversive things that you can do in a society that actually governs through fear. This is my first time doing this. This is the first silent worship on this channel, and I have to say it's interesting. Like no one's here, so I don't. No one's come, and that's okay. Eventually they will. I But this will also be recorded, so there will be people who come later. But what it's reminding me of is when I was uh, like 16, I had a job at a boutique that was actually owned by a 16-year-old. Her parents got her this boutique, and it was a serious boutique with very expensive clothes. Like Tony Alamo jackets. I don't know if you remember those, but they were like these big, puffy 1980s jeans jackets. They're like big and puffy with the rhinestones all over them. They would be like New York or Nashville. They were super, super flashy. And they, at the time, I think they were like $500. So now they'd probably be, I mean, if they were in now, they'd probably be something like $1,500 probably. But but that job put me into like this kind of weird family. It kind of connected me to this weird family, like the kind of family that would buy their 16-year-old a store in the mall before she had even, gone to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, which she was planning on doing. Um, but when I was working there, I also had the opportunity to become a mannequin model. I don't think they do that anymore, but have you ever heard of mannequin modeling? So I was hired by different stores like Casual Corner and Pacific, the surf store, um, Contempo, like just different stores in the mall. And my job was to stand on some kind of pedestal, like a mannequin pedestal, basically, and just be like a mannequin, just be completely still wearing their clothes. And so I would just be like, I do like, like whatever pose, or maybe more like this, whatever pose I could maintain. And people didn't think that I was real, because I was young and pretty and, you know, like perfect as we are when we're like 16. And but I had to basically stand there in silence, like just for like a half an hour before I was relieved by another model. I would just stand there in silence with people all around me talking about me, sometimes poking me. And it's so this like this whole getting on a live stream and sitting in silence has brought all of that up. And I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share that with you because it was really like my that was formative, and it might be one of the reasons why I'm drawn to Quakerism now, because it's something that I did when I was 16, not realizing that it was somewhat of a spiritual act. But I just thought I would share that with you. I Yes, I broke the silence, but um, yeah. So no one's here. So you say if hearts and minds are clear, let's connect um later. And I just wish that you all have a really peaceful and loving day, and walk walk the path of love. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.